Welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of Life Beyond Loss, the podcast. This is a guest show where we share the most amazing and inspirational stories of navigating grief and loss through to healing and transformation. I'm your host, Louise Kresick, grief and loss coach, and today I'm joined on the show by Tracy Stonard, who she shares her very personal story of grief and loss whilst juggling her business, a young baby, her family, and a house move. So join us in today's episode to learn more about the secret to Tracy's healing whilst navigating these changes and how her success all started with cake. Stay tuned. Show today by the lovely Tracy Stonard, who is a business coach, and she's also a fellow podcaster as well. So hello Tracy, it's good to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here, Louise. Thank you for inviting me.
So you've got an amazing kind of background in terms of, you know, what's led you to your career, and you know you've helped loads and loads of women. So can we just start off by, let's just share a little bit about, you know, who you are and what you do.
Okay, yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Tracy Stonard, and I'm a business coach and helping sort of aspiring and established women entrepreneurs to create and build a lifestyle business. So that could be a business that doing something that they love. And I guess it's been born out of my journey, which started back in 2010. I had a corporate background, had a successful corporate career, was kind of on that ladder. And then after I had my first son, went back to work, and it just really wasn't working out in terms of the hours, and had a lot of international clients. So from that point of view, I just really wanted to spend some time with my son and just really to have a business that worked around him growing up. And so I started my first business from the kitchen table, and that was a baking business. And it was something where I'd been really creative, during the time of pregnancy. Really loved baking. It was kind of around the time just before like Bake Off was popular, but there was a rise in the industry in the UK industry of baking, and I could definitely see there was a need for it to be almost rejuvenated and revitalised, and people were really starting to become more interested in baking cupcakes. So there's quite a bit of a journey with that baking business, but the long and short of it is that I built that business up through events, helping women learning how to bake, how to create their own business. And I also at the same time established a blog all on baking, where I did my own food photography, and wrote recipes, did recipe development, and I got that blog to be the number one blog in the industry in baking and with cupcakes. And because of the large readership and the position that I got it into Google, I then attracted a lot of press attention, and I did some consulting work with Sainsbury's and did some work with the Real Food TV company. So there was lots of opportunities, and as well as running events. And I also developed some online products to again, sort of business courses, again, all around helping women. And then as my son turned sort of school age, and I did a lot of work over the weekends with these events I was running, I then progressed into creating a marketing agency. And that's because I decided that I wanted to really come away from the baking. Although I absolutely loved it, I actually loved the business side, because that's always been my background. I've worked in businesses since I was 17. I've got a degree in business and finance. So there's always been that thread of business, and that's what I really enjoyed the marketing side. And I thought, actually, with the success of the blog, I'm going to sort of help in other businesses. So I started a consultancy business whereby I helped all sorts of sizes of businesses with their social media, with their blogging, all sort of online marketing. And then when at that stage, then I fell pregnant with my daughter, and I kind of recognised again that I needed to make sure that my life was going to be designed and the business was going to be designed all around, making sure that I could be with my daughter. And so I created continued, should I say, with the marketing side, but I actually narrowed that down to working just with women who were almost like, starting off their business, or they maybe taking on their first hire. And I started to focus on that size of the market in terms of coaching and helping them, because I just felt that, well, one, I could create that business that works on my terms, and these women wanted a business like that. They've got families, and really that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. And my daughter's again sort of coming up to school age now, and I've just been able to work flexibly, working actually with a small number of clients, but working kind of more deeply with them one-to-one, whereby I've kind of been able to work with just a few, but sort of my sort of basis is I work with them really sort of kind of more intensely, so that they can create the results that they want, as opposed to kind of doing working with lots of people and charging a smaller price. I've worked really with a small amount of clients and have charged, it's been more of an investment to work with me, and it's just enabled me to kind of work more deeply with women. There is a little bit more of a story around that, as I had my own personal challenges over the 4 years dealing with loss as well, and I think the business has just been, I've been able to maneuver the business around and work with the clients that I've wanted, but also whilst I've been able to be there for my family. So I hope that makes sense, Louise.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
I love the kind of I don't know, I sense like this kind of determination and will in you to just kind of design your own life really to some extent, and just make that the business and the passions that you've got kind of fit around what you need as well. But also, Tracy, I've got a burning question. Did you ever feel tempted to apply for the Great British Bake Off?
Yes, I did. I did seriously consider it at the beginning, because I was very much in that world of, I'd go to conferences with Paul Hollywood's there, and lots of, there's a picture of me and him actually with my son somewhere on Facebook. And everybody kind of laughed and said it looks like a family photo. Because he'd just risen to fame. It was his first sort of conference. And so, yeah, I was very, very tempted. And I did have offers anyway of doing TV work and writing books at that stage, because I was becoming more well known in the industry just through the blog. And you might think, oh, Tracy, why did you turn that down? A lot of people say, why did you not pursue that? But it was ultimately because I didn't want to just be known as a baker. I wanted to be also known that I'm a businesswoman as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does. It's just fascinating. The opportunities that it's really, to me, the fact that you actually created that opportunity in the first place is just amazing in itself, isn't it? And I think
that's been the thread really around with my and really at the core of everything I do, it's around showing you that you can navigate around and create and design that life that you want and have a business that fits in. I'm still working part-time hours. My daughter's still in preschool. I take a Friday off. I take a Monday afternoon off to be with her. And that's been the key really, is to be there for the children, also be there for the family, as we'll probably talk about a little bit later. As I've had we've had sort of challenges with the family where they've needed more time, and it's thinking about how I could do that around those situations. In my situation, I'm in a different situation now where actually I want to impact and help more women again, and I want to be able to do that because I feel that I've got that opportunity, energy and time now to impact more women. So I've started a podcast and just starting to grow my audience more within that space, so that I can help more people. And again, it's just about that we've got these opportunities as women that, you know, our mothers wouldn't possibly have had 20, 30 years ago through technology. But also, you know, even without technology, there's ways that you can build your business without even being online. You know, that I've done a lot of face-to-face networking. I've run events still, and you know, I've run mastermind groups. So there's so many different ways. I think it's just you trying to look at what you want first and thinking, you know, what do the hours I want to work, and then seeking out and thinking, well, who's doing this and who can I model and see that they're doing it, and that there are these possibilities available.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, as you say, if you know, you're in a stage of perhaps navigating some changes of your own right now, and wondering kind of like how to sort of go about fitting that work, and you know, even if, whether you run your own business or whether you're in employment, it's how you sort of deal with that in the process as well. And you know, even though sometimes we're dealing with grief and loss, kind of we still have to sort of like pay the bills and figure out how to sort of work with the situations we find ourselves in. And I know that that's something that you've kind of dealt with as well over time.
Yeah, it is, Louis. So in terms of my kind of story around loss, what happened is that my mother was diagnosed with cancer back in 2013, and she was in treatment for 4 years, and but the you know, then the latter 2 years before she passed, they were the challenging years, in terms of that she lived 5 hours away from where we live, and I had a baby as well. We were moving house and running the business, and towards the last year of her life, you know, I spent a lot of time traveling up there and helping with her care, particularly, you know, and then palliative stages, and wanting to spend time with her. And you know, I guess, you know, I'm going to say from the business point of view, I can work from anywhere. So I'm fortunate that I can take the laptop and I can go and do the calls. But also recognizing, just from it was a challenging time, because I knew that she was dying and I wanted to make the most of my time with her, you know, because, you know, time is our most precious resource. And when you know that somebody's entering the final months of their life and they're dying, you know, you want to be there. I wanted to be there. It was absolutely so important that I could just spend them final months with her in the hospital, spend that time and comfort her and be with her. I absolutely have no regrets whatsoever in terms of what I was able to do and be there. And ultimately I had the support, a wider support of my family, in terms of my husband, to try and, you know, manage the children at home so I could go and be away and spend time and care for my mum. So, you know, there's that. And it's the mental challenges around that, knowing somebody's going to die, and how it's going to happen. You've got your own fears. You know, how's this going to play out? You know, I'm a little bit of a person that likes to be in control, and you know, you've got no control over that, and when is it going to happen? And that was what was really difficult. And then after that happened, and then I knew that I got the next stage to go to, which is, how do I then deal with this loss? Because I couldn't face that, even though I knew I was going to have to walk through that door, where I've got to deal the other side of it not being there. You know, that's the challenge, that how you just don't know. I didn't know how I was going to be. It's the biggest loss. You know, I've had loss in my life in different forms. I've lost other people, but I think a parent is one of those big losses, and just didn't know how I was going to handle it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely relate to that. So in those kind of days where you were sort of wanting to spend time with your mom, and you had the business and a baby, like, how did you kind of juggle all of that? How did you navigate that?
Well, one of the things is that I was quite conscious about, for example, you wouldn't have seen a lot of me doing a lot of online marketing at that time. I was part of a paid mastermind group probably the year before, and I knew that actually I needed to kind of navigate my own way, which meant that I was going to, go and have to do things. For example, like I've always been part of a networking group locally. Also we moved areas, and I knew that was important to just have a local presence. And I felt as though by doing that, I could manage that on my time. I knew once a month I had to be somewhere, or there's a few groups I belong to. And I could kind of, if I couldn't be there, for example, like the summer months, I was needed to be away for a week or so. It didn't matter so much, but I think by just knowing that I know I'm going to have to show up here, but I didn't feel, if I'm being really honest, that I could show up online and do lives. I'd looked at doing that, and I just felt that just felt too much for me at that time, because I just had to understand how I was going, just for me to get up and be able to manage myself was going to be a challenge. And I just knew if I'd got set times where it's like, this is when I've got my coaching calls, I know I've got these, and I know I need to be available, I need to get my head into that space. So it's almost like, for me, and this might not work for other people, but I just had to sort of put it in different compartments. And there were times where I was in a mastermind meeting and my mum got rushed into A&E, and I was in London, and there were the occasions where I just couldn't get there, for certain things, because I was in London, and for me to get somewhere, within 5 hours. But obviously you're on the phone and keeping contact. And there were times where you're trying to juggle and thinking, oh, I wish I'd got two of me. But I have got a sister. I did have other family that could be there for her. And I managed that. I think it was the very end of life stage. That was where it was really important for me to, and it was around the Christmas time that she passed. And I just knew around them last few months, client generation wasn't my focus. It was literally just keeping going the clients that I'd got and really helping them and encouraging them to continue to work with me.
Yes,
so that was one of the tactics that really for me it was keeping, because I work on sort of 3 or 6 month packages, or clients have stayed with me for up to 2 years. I kind of knew in some and it's not the sort of coaching work, we could be on the phone once a week or once every 2 weeks. It enabled me to manage it more effectively.
So like that kind of stepping back and just assessing things, and I suppose giving yourself that little bit of headspace as well to work out what's going to work for you. And what helped you was to sort of scale some things back, kind of just compartmentalize things and just decide maybe where your priorities were.
Yeah, because I knew that when Mum she couldn't take any more chemo in the May, and I just knew that literally we were on countdown, really, because once she would stop treatment, she wasn't really able to have any more. And people can give you an idea of time, but in my mind I kind of thought, we've got till Christmas, and I need to those sort of initial sort of months into the summer were okay, but from the October to the December, that was, and I knew from that in the reality the work wasn't important at that time. It was kind of just got to get on with doing that, doing the best I can and showing up for those clients on the calls. But I know that I've got time to then step out and continue with that when Mum's gone. I need to make sure that I can try and, be there as much as I can. But I won't lie, it was absolutely, it was a challenge in all areas, because not just for my work, but I've got 2 children as well. And a 2-year-old who we'd moved into a new area. So she was slightly unsettled that Mummy was disappearing here, there and everywhere, and coming back probably not very happy Mummy as well, because you're just trying to remain strong. I was remaining strong for my mum and wanting to be there, and you can hide that emotion with her, and then I'd kind of come home and have to deal with my emotions, or making space to deal with those emotions, not in front of the children, but your family know if you're not quite right, and I think children pick up on that more than anything, and as much as you try and hide it,
Yeah.
they know if at that age if mummy's not feeling quite good. But I think the biggest thing for me is really actually experience what happens after that loss, and that was the whole. I just didn't know what that was going to look like and feel like, and I'd heard stories of people having a real mental breakdown, and I was a bit scared actually. How would I be? Would I totally crumble? Would I, women, I always think, are the backbone of the family, and I wanted to make sure I was going to be okay.
So how did it kind of impact you then after that?
Well, I have had anxiety. I've suffered anxiety in a way that I've had it in bouts on and off through my life, but I have experienced anxiety from the grief. And I'm no expert at all on this, but I guess the way that I've learned about anxiety is it's normally telling me something, and that for me is that you're either ignoring this grief, you're not making space for it, and you need to grieve. That was the message that really I found from that. I do a lot of journaling, so quite self-aware, and the anxiety or the anxiousness, it just come on sometimes out of nowhere, and it could happen just before I'm about to go on a coaching call, and I'm like, where's this come from? Obviously not in them very early days. Early days, obviously, are just a case of getting up and putting one foot in front of the other and just like, I can't believe this has happened. The whole 7 stages of that grief, of denial, has that happened? Shock. Oh my God, never going to see this person again. All these different emotions. And so there was those initial weeks. But I think for me, again, everybody's so different, Louise. I recognise that we're all different in how we handle things. And I think I have got that demeanour to try and remain strong and to put on that strong front for people. And then realistically, you've got to go, and it's okay to be sad, and you do need to grieve. And I was very aware that I couldn't push it under the carpet. I have to make space to grieve. And that grieving doesn't have to be always crying. It's just actually giving time for reflection. That person, you're spending 10 minutes a day thinking about them. And I think what worked for me was actually I knew I had to grieve every day in that first year, and I would make space for it. And then I almost felt if it's a cry or a walk or whatever, I kind of felt that release, and then I kind of could try and get on with my day. That makes sense. But
definitely, I think you're right in what you say, that everybody's journey with this is so different. But I'll tell you what I'm starting to kind of recognise more and more, the more people I work with, and with my own experience as well, is that this kind of almost like a side effect, if you like, of grief, this anxiety and depression and kind of how it affects people's mental health is so common. It's something that I think a lot of people tend to kind of experience. Like I said, it's almost like, to me, like grief itself is not, mental illness, but then these kind of side effects, if you like, crop up, and people tend to have this experience of anxiety and depression, and it's just really interesting. Just worth noting that it's quite common.
Well, the anxiety, definitely, because I've spoken about it with many people, and I am open about it, and the fact that I had trouble eating. Never had trouble eating before. I couldn't swallow. I was having real problems swallowing food, as if I hadn't even got enough saliva, and I felt that was a symptom of anxiety. And I went to the doctors, and for me, I didn't want to go down the drug route, and I'm not opposed to anybody doing it, but for me, personal choice was I didn't want to start going down that side. But I did think about the CBT side, but I did buy a really good book as well, because I'm a real reader, and if I want to understand something, I generally try and find out through reading. And I can't remember the lady's name. I can give it you perhaps for you, the show notes, but it's called Overcoming Grief, and it was a CBT approach to it. And again, I found that really helpful about understanding the symptoms of grief and how it can affect you and what's normal. And you're talking about these riding the waves, it can come and go. And I'm in the second year now of having lost mum. And, I'm in a different phase of the grief. It's still there. Only at the weekend, I just had a day where I felt really quite down about her not being around. But I would say it's slightly less now than it was in that first year. I do almost look back at the first year and think, gosh, I'm just so pleased I got through it. I got through the anxiety. I could feel at the end of that first year that I think it wasn't a particular moment. There was just something which shifted. I think it was shifting gear of actually, I want to do more around, because I do enjoy my work. I love my business and helping women, and I felt like I wanted to start that podcast, and I wanted to do it in memory of my mum. So I felt that there was a purpose there, and the podcast I have is called Lead Your Best Life. And I do think that podcast, I've always wanted to do one, but I felt that podcast was to be born out of the fact that I've spoken with her about what it's like to be thinking about dying. We had some very intimate talks about her fears and the thoughts of somebody who's dying at the end of their life. And one of the biggest things that I took away from that was that, life is short, life is precious, and you really have to make the most of it. And lead your best life. I do believe that we are the creators of our lives, and we will have these events of grief and loss in all forms come to us, but it's how we react to it and manage that and being happy. Ultimately, that is the goal, whatever that is, I think, for somebody, but when you talk about people's what was important and what they regretted, I had those chats, and that massively, has changed my outlook on life, and was really where I thought, right, I'm going to start a podcast, and almost it's for her as well, and to if that can help lots of other people. It is aimed at business women or people want to start a business, but it also covers the topics of life that we're all dealt with, no matter what we're doing, whether we're employed or not. So I've kind of gone off on a tangent there, Louise.
No, it's true. I mean, I went on your podcast, didn't I, as a guest, and we talked about grief and loss, and how kind of like that is just it is part of life. And when you're in business, or even if you're not in business, then just kind of day-to-day life, it's about how you sort of navigate that journey, I guess. And I think that book that you talked about is by Sue Morris.
Yes, it is. That's the lady.
Yeah, so we'll pop a link to that book, because that might be really, really helpful for them. And also another book sprang to mind when you were talking about your mum and kind of those conversations that you had. And I can't remember the name of it, but there's a book that's about people it was a study. I think it might be Kubler-Ross, who developed the 7 stages of grief, but spoke to many people that were dying and on their deathbed and didn't have long left. And they've compiled a whole book of kind of people's thoughts, dying people, of their biggest regrets and things like that, or just things that they think about towards the end of their life. And it is, strangely, it's actually a very uplifting and quite inspirational book, because it does make you realize, it just brings to the forefront that kind of thing of life is relatively short, really. It's about just being brave and doing the things that you want to do and just embracing it all.
Yeah, I think it's when you've sat and you've given time and chatted with somebody, and I can't imagine what that journey would have been like for Mum, but I just felt like I wanted to sit and listen and to learn, just to take that wisdom from her, someone that's reaching the end of their life. And she wasn't old, and it was a shock, even though she'd suffered with the disease for a number of years. But it's taking them lessons forward, isn't it, in terms of don't put things off. And I know we all say it, but I think it is that if there is something that you want to do, or I think it is that analogy. It's in there's a book called the the E-Myth, and there's a story in there, and it's like something I've never forgotten. It is around when, sounds a bit morbid, but how do you want to be remembered? What is your legacy? And if you're at your funeral, how, what do you want people to be saying about you? And what do you want to be known for? And it is something, actually, even before Mum was ill, that I very much have created my own, how I want my legacy to be, how I want to be remembered by my friends, by my family. What kind of person do I want to be known as, and what are my values? And then it's being in alignment with those values in everything I'm choosing to do. Because I don't want to get to the end and suddenly say, I just want to remember that I was in the office working 40 hours a week. That's not what I want to be known for. It's being a good mom, a daughter, inspiring and helping, thousands or millions of people to take action in their business and life. That's part of what I want my legacy to be. Being a good mom and a good daughter and sister. It's those things. For my mum, it was the fact that she was just proud that she'd brought up 2 girls, that she was, it was all around the family, no regrets. So, it's no doubt, that it's in the loss and the grief, there's always something that you change, and I think you just become, you're more wiser, but it's changed me, totally as a person, the way I think about things, and for the better, I would say. So there can be some positive that comes out of these situations.
I think that's what I'm sort of hearing, the more and more of these podcasts I'm recording, speaking to people, and obviously with the clients that I work with, watching their kind of journey, that, in the end, you do kind of come out of it the other side. It's not that you forget or the grief completely goes away, but I guess you learn kind of like how to work with it. But it's sort of like when you come out the other side, you are able to kind of look back, I think, a bit more retrospective and just see what those life lessons have been for you and what you've learned, and perhaps then take those forward. Would you agree with that?
I would, yeah. It's about, what are you learning? And again, I've been quite self-aware. I read a lot of personal development books, and one of the things that I was very conscious about during the mum's died and afterwards and today is about gratitude and the practice of gratitude, and how that has massively helped me in all of these stages of loss, before the loss, during the loss. And we talk about people doing gratitude diaries, and this says something different. It's about being more present. So for example, when I was sitting with Mum in the hospital for a week, and it was one of these stages where I just didn't know when I would leave, if she'd be there again, when whether it'd be the last time I'd see her. So they were highly emotional. But every time I spent time with her, I was very present and being so grateful that we could just have that time together. And I know I am grateful that it wasn't a sudden death. And I know that people experience it, say, well, Tracy, that's okay for you, because if you've had a sudden death, you've just got no time to prepare for it. But on the flip side, I don't know which way is it, if there is an easier way, because watching that person die and how it's going to happen, and that's hard as well. That's not easy. And I used to use the gratitude really as a way of being really grateful and always looking for that. Just so grateful that I've been blessed to have this time with her, and then even through the grief, just trying to be grateful that, feeling grateful that I'd had that time with her, but also feeling grateful for the day-to-day things in my life, that I have got my own health. I'm lucky that I'm here living and breathing for another day. Yeah. I'm so lucky, where my mum's not. Aren't I grateful that I'm waking up and I feel well? Simple things, but it's the feeling of that gratitude. It's not just saying it, Louise. It's the deep feeling of it is healing.
Yeah, I think for me, that's definitely the difference between just kind of being thankful and just appreciating, and actually like deep gratitude. It's something that you feel, for me, in your gut. And this is why I sort of talk quite often about mindfulness and encourage mindfulness practice as well, because it is that kind of that, there's compassion and the gratitude and just being connected to that moment. And all we've really got, haven't we, is this moment. Like, nothing's guaranteed in the future, and the past is in the past. So it's really just about what's in front of us. And I love that point that you've made. I think that's really important.
So that would be one thing really I'd say is, look for some sort of gratitude practice, and that's hard to do in them early days. And it is, you think it's the last thing I feel like doing, but I think if you just start small with the small things of, just it is a mindfulness practice. I think it is a practice where but once you start, and it's almost like your brain becomes trained to start to look for more. Just grateful to walk out and have some fresh air, or to have a friend that called, and to have somebody that's looked out for you, or it's so many different things. But I made a bit of a point to keep a gratitude diary next to my bed, even on the bad days. I'd kind of almost like, come on, Tracy, you can find something here. It's not saying I'm perfect about it at all, but the continuous steady practice of the gratitude has been immensely helpful. And even like at the weekend, it's acknowledging that grief and acknowledging what such a big loss it is in your life, but then turning it and thinking, I'm so grateful we had that time together, and that we did other things throughout my life together, and that, I'm the person I am today because of that person in my life.
Yeah, definitely. I can totally relate to that. I think it does really, like you say, sometimes you have to dig deep with it and really kind of like, especially in those early days, come on, just one thing. But I think it has really helped me as well to, when I think back now over my, time with my parents, rather than feel that, focusing on the loss and what's missing, it's about focusing on what I've had, and just feeling that deep gratitude for the time that I have had with them. And, when for example, like my wedding day, I felt quite sad about the fact that they weren't there. But then actually, when I think back, well, you know what, they did get to see me graduate from university, and all of those other times that I did share with them, which perhaps other people haven't had that opportunity. So yeah, I totally agree with you. It can be so, so helpful, and also very powerful, actually.
So my sister, we had a baby in the family a couple of months ago, and again, it's those sorts of moments, and that my sister's obviously having her first baby without her mum around, and we had a lot of anxiety around that. It's a joyous time, but how are we going to feel? And I just chose to focus on that this little baby is almost, and they're all like beams of light. They just so, you feel joyous around a newborn. I do anyway, when they're not crying. But when she was born, I just thought, it is that cycle of life, isn't it? They say I just felt as though I could see mum in this little baby, and it almost gave us hope. It has given us hope, definitely. The fact that a new life is being born, and that's been healing as well. But I think in the those weeks of obviously my sister being pregnant, it was thinking, how's my sister going to be? How am I going to be? Am I going to be emotional, but for the wrong reasons? And of course, there was that, but I would say that actually I felt more joy, and sort of that, just the purpose of another person coming into the family and another life, and I kind of, and it was near Christmas time as well, and but everybody, again, like we've said, is on their own journey, and And I think it's just about trying to navigate through your suffering, really, isn't it? And learning from that. And that's basically going to be unique, I think, for everybody, depending on the circumstances of what that loss is.
Absolutely. And I think you do make a great point though about the gratitude, and I think it's a really useful just kind of practice for people to just bear in mind, and like you say, just have a go at. And there's no big pressure around that, but just to look for, you know, the little things. I think that's a really, really good tip. So thank you, Trace. You know what? The time has just flown by so quickly. I just felt like I could talk to you like all day, which I say to every guest, but it's so true. Get so immersed in these conversations and just feel like you could talk for ages really on them. But I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing, you know, your very personal story. And I know that it's going to, you know, help other people out there and just help to sort of inspire them.
I hope so, yeah. And of course, if anybody's got any questions, or, you know, I'm more than happy to you know, to help anybody if they've got any further questions. You know, you put my details in the show notes to contact me. But yeah, that, you know, if it helps one person, then that's it. My job's done.
Absolutely. Just tell people very quickly, like, where they can get in touch with you. Where's the best place?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on my website at tracystonard.com. And I have a podcast called Lead Your Best Life, so you can find some interviews on there. And I'm also on Twitter, Tracy Stonard, and Facebook as well, Tracy Stonard.
Lovely, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tracy. And do you know what? I think we'll have to have you back on the show at some point. We can talk more about it.
Anytime. It's been great to be here. Thanks for having me.